Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. There's still a few people just getting into the lobby now, so we'll just give it 30 seconds or so and then we'll get on. So Sabah Hakhlan to our Middle Eastern colleagues and Ramadan Kareem. I hope you had a successful Eid. Brilliant. People are joining us now. Excellent. Great. Thank you for joining us today. This is Active IQ's International Expansion webinar, and we're going to be looking at the why, what, and how in relation to the new international programs of study that we've just launched. Now, I just want to thank you for everyone who submitted questions already. Just to let you know that we are going to answer some of the questions at the end of the webinar. If you've got any further questions that you'd like to submit during the webinar, please just put them in the chat function and they'll go through to our moderator, and then hopefully we can answer them if we've got time at the end. If not, we'll follow up after this webinar and get the answers to you then. Here's me assuming that we know the answer to the questions. I'm kidding, of course we do. Great. So thank you very much for joining us. Let me give you a quick introduction on how this is going to be formatted today and who's going to be speaking on what area. So the Northern accent you can currently hear is myself. My name's Gavin Baxter. I'm the Head of Business Development for Active IQ. I'm going to be talking to you into terms of the why we've developed these new products and why Active IQ is currently expanding in the international markets. I'm going to be handing you over to our expert in terms of product development, and that is Roy Scott, who is part of the team behind the development of these new products. And he's going to be showing you what the new products look like in more detail. And then I'm going to be handing over to our international external verifier, Cara Stanley, who's going to be talking on the how to get approved, how to work with Active IQ, and how they work overseas. So just to start off, before we just get into the why, I just want to share with you Active IQ's mission. Now, you might be familiar with this already if you're a customer of Active IQ. If not, I think it is a really important place to start, and it really kind of emphasizes and gets into the purpose of why we have started to develop overseas. But Active IQ's mission is to provide first-class qualifications, assessments, resources, and education services that change lives. That's the important bit. We work within that vocational education sector. We want to give people the skills and the knowledge they need to be successful in the health and fitness sector, which is predominantly where we operate. Most people on this call, I know that you're training providers, you're also part of that process, and you're helping people better their lives or change careers if that's what they want to do, and more importantly, gain employment or go on to further education. It's really touching to see the amount of case studies and stories that we've heard when people have completed an Active IQ qualification and then they've been able to progress onto other areas of their career. So, first of all, I'm just going to play a short video because it's much more exciting than just listening to me speak. And this video is just going to give you a quick overview of Active IQ and how we're operating. So I hope that gives people a bit of an introduction as to who Active IQ are if you're not familiar with us. We are a UK awarding organisation. We specialise on the awarding side in that active health and fitness sector. Just get my technology working. There we go. We've been going since 2003, so we are 20 this year, and you'll probably see the Active IQ 20 logo come June, which is when we'll be celebrating our birthday. And the name of Active IQ is actually Active International Qualifications, if you didn't know that. And yeah, we work with over 550 education providers around the globe. We are one of the biggest within the UK, servicing many fitness professionals and working with many training providers in different areas, whether that be private or public funded. We have seen an increase in vocational training demand in the international market, which I'll go into in a second. The major areas of interest are the GCC, so that's the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, etc. We've seen sector demands for quality training overseas. We've then started to develop some of our qualifications into Arabic. So we've translated 3 major UK regulated qualifications into Arabic, predominantly for the Saudi Arabian market through demand there. We've then started our expansion into the APAC area, so that's the Asia Pacific area. So we attend many trade events, and we were in Singapore, and we've started to pick up a lot of business in there through the same demands for either government-led vocational training demands or sector-led quality training demands. We've seen growth internationally about 30% year on year, which just shows the amount of demand that is in the international market. And then we've started to develop the new programs of study, fitness assistant, fitness instructor, and personal trainer. So that's from 2003. That's the kind of brief timeline that we went through. Everything under 2003 is predominantly happened within the last 4 years. That's how sharp the growth's been. The help of Brexit and external factors such as that has exported a lot more education further afield. The pandemic has certainly helped in terms of bringing the sector closer together and learning best practice off each other. So it feels like the sector is a little bit closer post-pandemic as well. So I'm just going to show you a quick map of where we're currently operating within the globe. So you can see here, the majority of our centres, you might not be able to see too clearly, but the majority of our centres are in the Middle East. We've got many training providers that are based within the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. Many of these also service other areas of the Middle East as well. We've got centres within Egypt, we've got centres in Kenya, Zimbabwe, Europe, and then we've now, obviously, like I said, we started to develop in the Asia Pacific as well. So Australia, got centres in India, and we've got centres in Malaysia and Singapore. So these are the Active IQ approved centres, and I haven't got the UK centres on because it would look a little bit too crowded up here, because we have about 400 approved providers just within England alone. But you can see that's where the Active IQ approved centres are, and it's grown rapidly in that. When I was talking on the previous slide, I was mentioning briefly about some external factors and some things that are supporting the growth and supporting the development of international expansion. The British government exports around 1.6 billion, I think, of technical vocational education and training per year. And that's included through training providers, award organisations and other bodies, learning material, etc. They've been a really big help for Active IQ, and the Department for Business and Trade have been really supportive and really helping us understand different countries, different territories, and how we can move into there and making introductions, which is really important as well. So if you want some further information on that, and if you want connections, if you're a training provider in the UK looking to export, please get in touch, and I'll make the relevant connections as well. You might have seen Active IQ social media. We've started to look at our sustainability development plans, and this is based on the UK. We're looking at our carbon footprint to start off with, and you might have seen the news that we've not got our office anymore. We're in Huntington, and with that, when we've been looking internationally, we've also been looking at sustainability development plans for us as a business. So we're a triple bottom line organisation. That's what our aim is to be. So we're looking after the people, planet, and profits. but also we're aligning ourselves with the UN Sustainability Development Goals as well. So when we're going into countries to support them with education, whether that be directly as Active IQ working with institutes, education providers in these countries, or whether it be training providers going in there, we want to make sure that we're fully aware and we're trying to support as much as we can with the UN Sustainability Development Goals, which includes things like promoting good health, quality education, which has been one of the major drivers, partnerships, reducing our carbon footprint, everything like this to work in there. There's also been that kind of why around individual countries and their development goals. For example, a really good example, because everyone's seen it in the media at the minute, is the Saudi 2030 vision. So everyone's probably aware that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is investing a significant amount of money into the development of sport provision. It's winning a lot of contracts to bring some tourism into the country. It's developing projects in the north of Saudi and Tabuk, to a place called Neom, where they're doing the line and everything. Is very innovative. So it's things like this that you want to also consider. If you're a training provider looking internationally, you want to consider what agendas have been set at government level and how you can feed into that ecosystem and support that. So that's one of the reasons why we've been making that move, and that's why we've been supporting, because within Saudi Arabia, we're working with an organization that is supporting females into fitness that have had challenging lives previously. But there's also been sector demands as well. So the sector demands for quality provision and practical assessment. So within the international market, within the health and fitness market, we work in a self-regulated market. So within the international field, there is many training providers that offer fully online provision with little to no quality assurance in most cases. So this is what's been driving our demand as well. And we've had more and more operators come to us and say they want to see Active IQ certificates for their personal trainers, their fitness professionals, because they know how we quality assure as an awarding organisation. And there's also been demand from registers as well. So we've had, there's registers similar to SimSpar. If you're familiar with the UK market, there's registers around the world that are aligned to different overarching registers, but they basically set the standards for their country in a self-regulated market, and they're driving the quality as well of provision, working with providers and working with individuals to make sure that that quality stays there. So the certificates that people hold, they deserve. So another reason why is because of the challenges we face with UK regulated provision overseas. So the most obvious challenge is because we're regulated by Ofqual in England. When we're delivering our qualifications overseas for an education provider, they would have to deliver that exactly the same as if they were based in the UK, which means all the content's exactly the same. And a lot of the content for the gym and the PT would be based around nutrition guidelines of the NHS, for example, which isn't relevant to someone sat in Dubai. So there's a UK-centric content that people were not too familiar with or too happy with. The cost is associated to this, the third point as well, which is understanding awarding organisations, because awarding organisations predominantly only live in the UK market, which means that most international providers in our sector, the education sector, don't have the same processes. So they don't have internal verifiers, they don't have assessors, and they don't know what they are. So the costs are quite substantial for someone setting up, because they have to take their staff through training, they have to get them to the UK standards for delivery, and they have to make sure everything's in line with that. And we found it was quite restrictive and limited opportunities as well, because when we're on a mission to change lives and give people more opportunities and work in line with sustainability development goals, we found like the UK qualifications directly, the regulated ones, in a different market when they don't speak English as the first language, or the way that we do assessments is different, was actually restricting people and putting people off. So that's the reason why we started to develop these new programs. So I'm just going to show you a quick clip of what these programs look like. Now, not to take too much away from Roy's section into the what, but that's the why. So the kind of in a nutshell, that the why is because there was sector demands, there was external demands, and there was government demands that were requiring quality education within different territories, and we were answering it to make sure that we're aligned with our mission, to make sure we had good programs that will lead people into employment or further education, to be able to change their lives and enter our sector. So we've worked quite closely with many stakeholders, and we've developed a fitness assistant. The reason we developed the fitness assistant is EQF level 2, which is a UK level 1 equivalent. The reason we've developed that is because we know that the physical education sector within the educational networks in most countries, especially if we're looking at the Middle East, isn't at the same level as the UK yet, which means there is a demand to kind of get people on to the entry-level qualifications before they move up to a personal trainer, fitness instructor, and then the level 4 personal trainer, which is obviously the most most program in demand in the Middle East, especially. So these are non-Ofqual regulated international programs, but they're very comprehensive, and you'll see that with Roy's section, and they are quality assured to this to what we would want from Active IQ as a leading awarding organisation to support the international students, which you'll hear from Cara. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and I'm going to hand you over now to Mr. Roy Scott, who's going to look into what these programs look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Gav. Hi everyone, really nice to speak to you. My name is Roy Scott. I'm a Product Development Manager here at Active IQ. And today within this webinar, I'm going to take you through what you can expect from these programs. So I'm going to show you the fitness instructor, the personal trainer, and I'm going to show you our LMS platform, and we're going to have a look at it from a student's perspective, and hopefully in doing so you'll see some of the key concepts that we've used in our design and our philosophy around how we put this together. So this is our LMS platform, and it's a Moodle based system. So it's compatible, it's web-based, it's compatible with all different browsers and different devices as well. So what you're seeing here is the actual program homepage. So this is where students, once they've logged in, this is where they will arrive at. This is a tile-based system, so the format is a tile-based system. This is the fitness instructor, and if I show you here, on the other tab, this is the personal trainer program. So what I thought I'd do is show you some of the general functions of the platform that the learner will widely use to give you a good concept of how it all works. So each of these tiles represents a different either resource or a different unit of the program. So you'll see here within each of the units, top right hand side, there's quite a few ways that the progress is monitored, but the progress within each individual unit will be tracked and tick up as the percentages are raised in line with when assessments are passed. Also, you have some overall progress trackers that are embedded within the front page that will tick along as progress is made as well. Top right hand side, I'll show you this. This is where notifications will jump up. So notifications are sent between the student and the assessor when various things are complete or tasks are attempted. And these are linked to the email. These will be linked to the email of the student as well. So it's a good two-way communication system that will alert them to certain milestones or actions. They can click on it as well. If they were to click on it, it goes straight to that particular area of the platform. So that's quite a good function to use, something that would be used a fair amount, I can imagine. I'll show you this sidebar. So it's the top left-hand side. We can expand or contract the sidebar. In doing so, if you were to expand the sidebar, you get the units come up individually so you can navigate. There's all sorts of ways of navigating around the platform. So this will bring up a slightly expanded view. If we take it down to this size, we get a bit more screen width, but the icon at the top there, this is the Scholarly Hat icon that will always bring the students back to this particular point, the landing page. 2 down from that I'll show you, this is grades. So we click into grades, and this will give the overview of the full program. So this will show the student the full program, all the different assessments that they've got to complete within the program of study, and whether they are either theory assessments, assignments or observations. So as progress is made, there will be grades added to this. So this is a good view for the student to keep track of their progress as well. So the full qualification is here. This is fitness instructor. I'll also show you badges. So we've integrated some badges. These are really for a bit of fun, a bit of gamification and motivation really. So as progress is made, units are achieved, badges are issued, and the students will get them. They'll be linked to their notifications and also linked to their dashboards when they log in. So we bring ourselves back to the home page. Now let's have a look at some of the tiles and the information that's contained there. So we have an introductory tile, and this contains everything that the student will need in terms of understanding the program of study and also operating within this LMS space. So let's have a look at this. We click on this. So the first thing they will see, there's a video there that's an overview and an introduction into the program. It just gives them a very short piece of information about what they have to do to achieve and complete the program and ultimately to gain their certification. We've got the program of study there, which contains a syllabus, and for all our resources consistent across the platform, we've used page turning resources that can be used in terms of toggling left and right to turn the pages, but also students can jump as well using this bar at the bottom here. This will jump them to different pages. Below that we have some guides, guides around the different assessments that make up the program. So theory assessments here, assignments here, and observations. They're also in screenshot mode as well, so they can see exactly what they have to do from their perspective to achieve those various elements and to operate the LMS system. So let's come out of there. Bring us back to our home page, so we can collapse that down, perhaps bring us back to our initial start point here. So now we're going to have a look at resources that are embedded within these programs. So I'm going to show you how our e-manuals are embedded. So we have a tab here. This tile here will contain the full e-manual for qualification, and our e-manuals have been designed to map to the syllabus entirely. So all of the assessment criteria, all of the assessment elements are linked to the resource, so that the learning outcomes and the assessment criteria link together. So as we can see here, this is our full manual for the whole of the program. So it's quite a large manual, but it can be accessed from this particular area of the platform. And again, same concepts as before in terms of what we've just seen. Page turner, the student can jump to various sections of that manual. They can also jump into, for example, like a full screen mode, which might be a bit easier. They can zoom in and out as well, various areas. So that's generally how our resources work and consistently throughout the programs. So if I close that, we also have some bonus resources that we've added. This is a muscle manual that's going to help them with their anatomy and physiology, so we've added that. It may be that the students would prefer to have their resources in more of a bite-sized format, in which case what we've also done is we've chunked the manuals, the e-manuals, down into their constituent units. So if we have a look at anatomy and physiology now, we can see that the section related to that unit is provided in its own e-manual. So a bite-sized e-manual covering the whole of that unit is provided here. So this might be more practical for students to actually access them this way. And also it's closer to the link of the assessments that are below that we're going to have a look at it in a second. It might be that the students want to get the manual up on, so for example, one page and be working on the assessment on another as well. So it gives them the ability to do that. So we can see the muscle manual below. And this is something that we've replicated across all of the units. So health and safety, for example, there you go, you've got the e-manual for health and safety embedded there. So that is our e-manuals, and across both of our programs as well, same concept for personal trainer. You'll find exactly the same concept. Obviously the content will be adapted to meet the level of the program and also linked to the syllabus itself. So that's resources. What I'd like to look at now is let's have a look at the assessments themselves. And first of all, we'll take a look at theory assessments. Theory assessments are broadly going to be automatically marked by the platform itself. The only exception to that is if it contains an essay question, which is more of a long form question. But let's have a look at that, and hopefully you can get an idea behind our design concept there. So below, for each unit, if you drop below the resources, you'll find the actual assessments themselves. So the theory assessments will be linked. This is anatomy and physiology, and you can see that in this particular area, the concept is that the topics or the learning outcomes have been separated into individual sections. So skeletal system, for example, it sits on its own, and these are attempted individually as well. So let's have a look at one theory assessment, skeletal system. So when the student jumps into the theory assessment, it will open up and it will give them an overview of the assessment, and it will contain things like the pass mark, any other stipulations or requirements around, for example, needing to use headphones, or whether it contains an essay question or not, will all be included in the overview here. Jump into here. Jump into the actual assessment itself. So here's the assessment itself on the skeletal system, and you'll see as we work down through this example that we've used a range of different assessment methods. So this is a drag and drop here. We've tried to use imagery where we can as well to bring some of these concepts alive, to make them a bit more engaging and integrate a bit more application. So there's image based here. We've got, these are, for example, these are short answers where the students would type in their answer as a single word. We've got drag and drop as well, so we try to utilise drag and drop quite comprehensively throughout the programs. There's a drag and drop that relates to bone categories, and there's bone names there, joint types. We've also got the range of assessment methods we've used. We've tried to vary it up as much as possible. So we've got here, for example, this is just a bog standard multiple choice. So we've still got that. So we've got a range. This is an example of where we've integrated some video content into anatomy and physiology. So learners would click the video, watch, take in the instructions, and then look to select the answer. So we've got some video where we can. We've integrated video. These are imagery around spinal regions, for example. More drag and drops. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of our sort of design principle around the assessments, and those principles apply throughout the programme. So if you were to look at health and safety, for example, which is traditionally more of a difficult theoretical sort of concept for students on a programme, we've included videos and imagery, so students have to identify hazards, for example. So we try to bring concepts alive where we can. In terms of it being automatically marked as well, in this case, this particular one we've just looked at, skeletal system, this would be marked straight away. There's no sort of human requirement in terms of marking, it's all done in the system for you. So I'll just show you an example of one I did earlier, completed earlier. So if we go into the review of this attempt that was previously submitted, we can see that this is an example of how the system will just mark it automatically. So the student will get their results straight away, and then they can look at the review and see how they've done. They could either do it through this navigation, which would tell them which ones are correct or incorrect or partially correct. And then as they scroll down, they get the information about how they've done, and that will help them to perhaps revise for the next attempt. In this case, this was a refer, so they would need to go back and have a look at this. It also can be used by the training provider to take on board and see if there are particular areas that need to be worked on. Maybe for a revision session, it might be that a revision session can be focused around these particular areas. So that's our general design feature. And of course, when you move into, like, for example, a high-level personal trainer, when we have a look at similar areas, the content will match the standard and the requirements, but we've also tried to adjust the assessment methods as well with the level. So in this example, this is a muscular system at a personal trainer. So rather than, for example, if I bring you down to these areas, rather than using labelling, we've got sort of been able to enhance this by using drag and drop, which is obviously a more difficult version than labelling. So we've got, there's been differentiation in terms of how we've designed things from an assessment method point of view. So we've been able to have that differentiation. You'll find that in the programs. So let me jump back to this instructor and bring you back to the home page. So that's a bit of a quick run through of theory assessments. Now there is another type of theory assessment method that I will show you. So if we look in this particular unit, we can find, let's take a look in here. Let's take a look in this next one. So what I'd like to show you just quickly is something slightly different. So you can see drag and drop label, but this is an essay question that you see in here now, question 3. So this is a question, it's a long form answer required, and this is where you would need an assessor to come in and actually mark it. So from their side, they go in and mark it. We haven't used an awful amount of essay questions, so a lot of the work is done by the platform for you. However, there are elements around this, and I'll talk a bit more about how you'll know where these are and what to, there's some guidance around what to do for yourselves as assessors on these as well. But I'll show you that in a second. So just to make you aware, so that's the kind of final type of question that we've got, is that essay question, if you like. And students could attach a file. In theory, they could attach like a voice file, maybe, if they didn't want to type it out, or they could type out their own file and attach it. So different concepts, but just wanted to show you that. I'll bring us back to our home page. So aside from the theory assessments, there are two other types of assessments that are embedded within the programs. We stay with the fitness instructor, but if I just bring up the client practical unit, we have observations and assignments as well. So observations, obviously you'll do in terms of watching the learner's performance as a training provider. And we can go in and have a look here. So this is the exercise modes observation. So this will work slightly differently to the theory assessments that we've seen. So as an assessor or as a learner, they jump into here, they're given the instructions around what they will need to do, and then we provide all the resources for you in this particular area of the platform. So here you can see listed, as well as the instructions, you've got information about the checklists that will be used to assess the students, any kind of planning templates that the students may need in order to prepare for them are provided, as well as overviews as well. And the reason this is a little bit different is that this will require the assessor, once they've carried out their observation, to upload the evidence of that result to this area of the platform, and we have training videos around how all that works from the assessor point of view. But the student is able to see all this, so they see exactly how they're going to be assessed. And I'll just show you a quick example of if they wanted to look at the checklist, for example, they're going to be assessed against. They can download that, and there you can see the checklist, and this is what the training provider will use to make their judgments and ultimately upload onto the student's platform. So that's observations. We can have a look at something slightly different. As I said, there's always different ways of navigating around the platforms. I'm just going to go straight into jump to assignment, and this is the planning a gym program assignment that the students will need to complete. So here we can see planning the gym program, and same concept in terms of how the observation works. All the information is provided, the templates are provided. So in this case, the student has to plan a gym program. Let's have a look at the template that we provide for the student. So again, same concept. They will download. In this case, it's a gym program that they have to design off the back of the step before, which is their consultation. So we provide that, and it will be provided in different formats as well, so editable PDF, Word, and hard copy for them. So that's all there. And for this particular type of assessment, the student will complete what they have to do, generate the document that's required, and upload it to the system or to this particular area of the LMS. And you'd have seen from that introductory tab, we provide them with all the guidance around what they have to do for that. So they've got support in terms of those elements as well. They're provided. So yes, so that those two units, so practical unit, client practical unit in fitness instructor, and in terms of personal trainer, if we look at unit 7, which is the client case study and practical, they're slightly different in terms of their setups, and this is where sort of the observations and assignments come in. So they're the free. Hopefully, that's given you a fairly reasonable overview of the free types of assessments that are embedded within the programs. And of course, as progress happens, as students progress, they can keep track of how they're doing various ways, as I mentioned, the grade tab as well. So that's a quick run through of the programs and how the LMS works. I hope you found that useful. I hope that was beneficial in giving you a bit of an overview of the concepts that we've used for design and how it's going to be from a student's perspective and the student's experience. Okay, so in this next section, I'm just going to show you away from the student view, and I'm going to show you an area that's designated to the centres, you guys, and a training provider space and a resource that we providing that goes alongside these programs. So these work in synergy with what we've just been seeing. So as assessors and internal verifiers, you will be provided access to a training provider area, guidance linked to each program as well, depending on what you're approved for. But these will support you in terms of your side from a centre or training provider in terms of carrying out all the functions that you need to carry out to make judgments, to reference things, and just general support. So this is the fitness instructor one. Again, this is the home page, and you'll be provided access to this. This is going to be for your eyes only in terms of training providers. So again, it's the same kind of format, tiles format. So what we've got in here is 3 distinct areas at the moment. We've got the program of study. So this is a full program of study. Again, contains the requirements and the syllabus for the programs. We've also got a program assessment guidance document. So this is going to be where it's going to be the Bible for the assessors, really. I'll show you, if I bring up the fitness instructor one, I just pull it across so you can have a look. It will be attached as a document there which you could download, but I've just pulled it up as a file, as I had it attached there. So this program assessment guidance will give you all the instructions that you need as a centre in order to make your judgments and tell you all the conditions around how all the assessments work and how the program's put together. As you're seeing here as I'm going through, there's some information around, for example, where the essay questions are located within the program, so you could get that specific information, as well as the general guidance around all of the assessment areas, observations and so on. What you'll find is that each unit will be separated and its requirements in terms of conditions will be summarised as well. And if there's any guidance needed, so if, for example, it's an essay question, you can see the essay questions that link to Unit 3 of the fitness instructor. You've got the guidance there, the marking guidance, which will provide your assessors and IVs with information around how they can make their judgments and what constitutes marks and what doesn't, for example. So that's the program assessment guidance. And the last thing, and we're probably going to be adding to this a fair bit as we go and get more sort of questions in or frequently asked questions, but we're going to have some tutorials as well. We have already created, we carried out a webinar that we recorded, a separate webinar that was around how to carry out the functions that you'll need to carry out from your side if you're a training provider around the assessments and how that all works within the LMS. So we've looked at it from a student perspective today mainly, but this is a video run through that will take you through how it works and how you sort of can work through the system and navigate your roles and responsibilities as assessors or internal verifiers. And of course we've got this for personal training as well, which has been contextualized for that, so we've got it across the two programs. So that's enough from me probably. Thank you for that. It's been really good to talk to you today, to showcase our programs, and hopefully you've got a lot from that. And I wish you all the best on your journeys with these programs, and I hope you found that useful. So great. I'm now going to hand over to Cara. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Roy. Hi, everyone. I'm Cara, and I'm going to take you through the how to become an approved international centre with ActiveIQ. What I've done is I've just split it into 3 different sections. So we're going to look at what the centre approval is, and this is a very, very simple process for our international centres. And then have a look at staff training. So there may be opportunities and a need for upskilling with international staff. And this is something that we provide. So I'm going to go through that in a bit more detail. And then, of course, the ongoing support. So as Gav mentioned, we are very much on the quality assurance side. So there's always going to be ongoing support. So I'll give you an insight into that as well. So let's go to the centre approval to start with. So once you decide that you want to become an international centre, as I said, it's a very, very simple process. So a centre will fill in an application form, and this will be received by the approvals team. And as a centre, you'll also send in your staff certificates and their CVs as well. And we take a holistic review of the certificates and the CV, because obviously we're dealing with many, many different territories for our international centres. And therefore, the background of the staff are going to be very different from if, say, for example, we were doing this within the UK. So as I said, we look at a holistic approach as we review the certificates and the CVs. So a word of advice with the CVs to make sure that they're comprehensive and they really show the skill, the continual professional development of your staff, because we take all of this into consideration. It says here that an invoice is sent out and it gives the amount there of that invoice. And I put that there because it's important to know that whilst you're paying that fee for centre approval, the staff upskilling that I'm going to go on to is included in that, which I think is a real value within there. So all the information is reviewed and your payment is received. So very simple first step. This then, we move on to the EV team. So as I said, I'm part of the External Verify International team, and I will then introduce myself to the centre and we will conduct an approval meeting. In this meeting, there's a range of areas that we're going to discuss. And first of all, it's obviously looking at your staff qualifications. So your staff have met the technical needs for the qualification. So they have a background in gym, in PT, depending on what they're going to be delivering. And it says here, any staff upskilling identified, an action plan to be set. So it could be the scenario that your staff have the technical qualifications, but they don't have a tutor or assessor or internal verifier qualification. Now, as non-regulated, this isn't a requirement. So this isn't something that we see. So this is where the Active IQ training comes in. So we provide this for your staff once we've identified their needs. Also within that approval meeting, we'll be having a look at your centre internal policies. So we discuss things such as your appeals, complaints, maladministration, looking at equality and diversity. So we have a discussion around those. And then we go into the wider discussion of, well, how are you going to be delivering the qualification? Where are you going to be delivering it? What your scheme of work is going to be in terms of how what that delivery is going to look like. So this approval meeting is extremely important because we then from there can set an action plan. And depending, as I say, what we've received in terms of your staff qualification and experience, we'll put that action plan into place. So 2 paths that we follow from here. So the first one that I've got here is if your staff do require upskilling. I have to say that from my point of view, because I'm involved in the training, this is a fantastic opportunity for everybody involved because it makes it, we work very closely with your staff. So by conducting the training, you get to know each other, you get to know that supportive relationship, and it's the opportunity for that face-to-face multiple questions and support. So as I say, it may be that your staff are going to attend tutor training, assessor training, IQA training. And once we've identified that, we will book that in. And I'm going to go into in a moment as to what that looks like. So as it says here, the EV completes the training with the centre. During the actual training, there'll be formative assessment as we go through it. But also it says here, the centre submits worksheet for marking so that we can see the staff competency and that they have met the learning outcomes. Centre to complete the relevant e-clinics pre-recorded before the course delivery. And so these are in relation to what Roy was talking about on the platform, so that they can do an e-clinic, so that they have the awareness and the knowledge of that platform. So that's the route if the staff and what's required if the staff upskilling is needed. Now, no upskilling required. This means that the staff have got the technical certificates, and they have also got, they can show the competence, experience and or certificates for tutor, for assessor or for IQA for the roles that they're going to be doing. And so if there is no staff upskilling required, they would just go straight on to completing the relevant e-clinics before they start the course delivery. And then this leads to the same outcome, that the centre is fully approved and can start learner registration and qualification. So very, very simple. So just quick overview again. The information comes into the approvals team. The EV will then work with the centre to look at the approval and the action plan required. Staff upskilling is, if that's required, that will then be booked in. If no staff upskilling is required, then it's the simple path of completing the e-clinics, and then we are ready to go. So whilst that's a simple process, obviously the support doesn't stop there. So let me just go further into what that staff training looks like. So the first point I've put here, that it's bespoke to the centre and the staff requirements. So if I give you examples of training that I've done before, it's when all of the staff attend, all of the tutor, all of the assessor and all of the IQA. And it doesn't mean to say that their specific roles are all going to be all of the above. It's so that they get a good understanding within their team of what their roles are and the expectations of that. So again, it just depends what the staff requires, and then we'll put that into place. I've put in here that it's a flexible schedule, so usually completed over a 2 to 3 week period. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you're going to be attending for 2 to 3 weeks. It means that if attending for the tutor session, you'll then have time to do the work in between, the self-directed work, and then come on to do the assessor and then the IQA. So it's flexible. We book it in to suit everybody's diaries, and in general, we can get it completed in a 2 to 3 week period. So in that approval process, you can put this in to your consideration if you're looking at a timeline for delivery. It's delivered live online, so you will attend with usually myself in a live scenario, and as I say, we book that in to suit the needs of your business. And then the staff knowledge is consolidated formatively during the training, so it's interactive. It isn't just a case of me talking at your staff. It's lots of interaction, and this is made very clear at the beginning, because obviously it's all about getting that your staff upskilled. So during the training, it will be formatively assessed by myself, and then at the end, kind of summatively, because they will be answering questions directly related to the training. And then I've just put a note at the bottom here that it's mandatory for all centres to complete the pre-recorded e-clinic prior to qualification delivery, in addition to any staff training. So that's whether any upskilling is needed or not, that would be a mandatory requirement for all staff. And then what I've put here, I'm not going to read each of these bullet points, but this is basically the overview of the learning outcomes of that staff training. So here we've got tutor, assessor and IQA. For centres, generally with the tutor and the assessor role, there's a really good knowledge there of what's required. So again, it's very relevant for the people attending it, and they already have a background to it. Not so much on the IQA, and I think this again is where Active IQ is setting itself apart, is that we want those standards there. So we're going to work with you with the internal staff training for that supportive IQA role. And as I mentioned before, having already done this with centres, you get a really good relationship, and right from the beginning, your centre is set up obviously for success, but also to meet those standards, which I think you'll all agree that we find very important. And then my third point here was ongoing centre support. So you've been through the approval process. Obviously, everything that you've seen with Roy, your centre is going to have access to, they're going to be delivering, but there might be the question of, well, how are we going to deliver this? So ongoing centre support covers absolutely everything in terms of what is your IQA strategy? What is your scheme of work? All of this can be incorporated within the EV role as well to support your centres. So it doesn't stop at that point that you've done the upskilling, you've done the e-clinics and you're ready to go. So it's an open support relationship that whilst, say, for example, if I was your EQA, there are set expectations on my quality assurance activities, but there's also that further support as well. So I've just put here, as well as conducting quality assurance tasks, your allocated EV will be available for ongoing support sessions post-centre approval if required. And as I said, you know, there may be question marks again, well, how am I going to deliver this? What is the ratio of using the resources or face-to-face or blended online, etc., etc. So all of those questions can be answered. So thank you for your time. I'm going to pass you back to Gavin as we're going to go into those questions that you've sent in to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Cara. And thank you everyone for listening so far. We have had quite a few questions come in, which is great. So without wasting any time, let me just get straight into them. One of the most common questions that is coming in, and I'm assuming this is from training providers, and if not, let me clarify. So the common question is about the costs of these programs. So if you are a training provider, the cost of these programs, as Cara explained, is £625 on application. And then it's at a per learner. And we've tried to streamline these so you get everything included within the cost per program per learner. So the fitness assistant is £50. That includes the assessments and the e-manual. The fitness instructor is £100 per learner. Again, assessments, e-manual, access to the online platform. And the personal trainer is £150 per learner. So these are the costs to the centre. Now, if there is people on this webinar who are not training providers, and I'm just assuming you potentially could be students, so we can't deliver these programs directly. So you would have to find an approved provider in your area. So if you're based in Dubai, you can contact ActiveIQ. You can contact business development at activeiq.co.uk or the info@activeiq.co.uk that you can see on the screen. And we can give you a list of the local providers who are approved to deliver this program to support that. And their costs are set by them. These are just the supplying costs on that. So hopefully that's clear. The question was, what support can I expect to get from ActiveIQ? Now, I think that Cara covered a lot of that from an external verification standpoint, but also as an approved centre with ActiveIQ, you will get access to a dedicated business development individual, quality assurance, customer service professionals who will assist you with the setup, operation, and the quality assurance needs for your training provider. We are quite well known for our extensive resources that we provide as an awarding organisation in the UK. Some of the other questions around, do these programs provide access to international registers? So whilst the programs are mapped and based on international standards, we cannot guarantee that you're going to get access to work with your local register, because it is a self-regulated market and every territory might have different requirements to work with that. We do provide the vocational pathways that lead into employment in the industry, but I would suggest you check with your local register for any additional requirements that might be needed to work with them. We also will provide guidelines as well. So we do have quite a good relationship with most international registers. So if you contact us and you're based, I don't know, in the UAE, for example, we can give you exactly what the UAE reps will be requiring from you as a training provider to be able to work with them. Still can't guarantee it, but we'll make the introductions and tell you everything that's a requirement from their side to be able to support with that. And then I guess one of the other questions that comes in, let me just go through, see if there's languages. So these programs are currently available in English. You can see from what Roy's demonstrated here as well, we have tried to make it so if English is not the first language, the assessments are very much inclusive of that and a bit more supportive of that. But they are currently available in English. However, they can be delivered in a different language. We'll just have to have a discussion on how that looks and how the translation of the programs look and how it works from a quality assurance standpoint. But it is possible from that. And I guess a question that came up prior to the webinar, which will be really good to answer, and hopefully the webinar's answered this, is what sets the programs apart from the current UK qualifications. And you'll see this in our FAQs as well, but our international programs offer a unique vocational pathway that prepares learners for careers in the health and fitness sector, specifically tailored for markets outside of the UK. With our cutting-edge curriculum and industry-recognised standards mapped to IC-REPS and E-REPS, we provide a competitive advantage for those looking to succeed in the global fitness industry. Now that you can probably tell I've just read that, but essentially in a nutshell, hopefully the webinar has explained it, but the UK regulated, Ofqual regulated provision is mapped to UK standards. These programs are still, if not more comprehensive, they're still very comprehensive programs that give people the unique skills and knowledge that they need to pursue a career in the international market, and it's more relevant for that local market. And obviously we've done it to make sure we can support external goals, sustainability goals, and individuals as well. So any other questions that I haven't got through to answer, and I'm just trying to flick through, we will get back to you with these questions, and we will make it public knowledge so we can answer the questions. But hopefully you've enjoyed today's webinar. Any further questions, please contact ActiveIQ. You can contact business development at activeiq.co.uk to get through to myself, or you can contact info@activeiq.co.uk and we'll pass you to the relevant department and we'll be able to support you there. So enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much for attending, and we'll speak shortly, hopefully. Take care.